But Albert, staying in the AFC, how do you sort it out right now? If we're sitting here in 6 weeks, when it's all said and done, which teams do you think are going to be at the top?
I think we saw some great signs from the Chiefs on Sunday night, and I still like, I've seen a lot of people writing them off, and I just sort of remember where we were 2 years ago when Mahomes got hurt, and there were a lot of questions about the defense, and I believe at one point that year they were 6-4, and they didn't wind up losing another game. I think the Chiefs have been there before, and I think so much of why they struggled over the last few weeks had to do with their best players not being at their best. There's the offensive line issue, which I think caused Mahomes to maybe try to do a little too much. I don't think the play calling was where it needed to be, just as far as balance and running the ball and helping the offensive line out. And then Mahomes, being willing to take things underneath, and then on defense, I think there's no question that like Frank Clark and Chris Jones just flat out had to play better, had to get healthier. And, when those guys aren't at their best, I think it sort of exposes their back seven. What we saw, I think on Sunday was everything coming together. Those guys up front on their defense played really well. And all of a sudden now over the last few weeks, their defense has looked competent because of it. And I think with Mahomes, you're starting to see him, maybe like take another step in his development and, learning the game management part of it and kind of adapting to what's around him a little bit better. I just look at the Chiefs now and, I've thrown the word trust around the last couple of days. Like, which teams do you trust will be there at the end? I think the Chiefs are probably the team in the AFC that I trust most will be there in the end. I really love what the Titans have done. And I think the Titans are the most consistent team. I have to wonder if not having Henry's eventually going to catch up with them.
Let's switch it over and talk about the NFC because, we've all talked about how crowded it has been at the top. Who do you like in the NFC right now? Who stands out to you as being there for the long run and finding the way to get that bye?
Well, I'll throw that trust word around again. Yeah. The two teams I think I trust the most are the Bucks and the Packers. I think the Bucks, like, there's going to be, I think they'll get a bounce, and I think they've become more reliant on Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski because of the natural trust between those two and the quarterback. Mm-hmm. And so, I think losing those two is a big deal. Now, if they lose AB for a longer period of time because of the COVID thing, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with that yet. But I'd just say overall that I trust them a little bit more. And then the other team I trust is the Packers, just because I think this is good. The irony of everything over the last 8-9 months between the Packers and Rodgers, I think this might be the best roster that Aaron's ever had around him. If you look at it, that team hung in there in Arrowhead with, a quarterback who just did not look ready at all in Jordan Love. And they lost but it was 13-7 and they had a shot to win that game at the end. And then, Aaron looked a little rusty, which is fair. He missed 2 weeks and he hadn't practiced at all leading up to the game. And they were able to sort of give Aaron time. The defense bought Aaron time to kind of get his feet underneath him.
Sure.
And they wind up running away with it at the end. And remember, the defense was without Zadarius Smith and Jair Alexander, who you could argue are their two best players. And so I just think the depth and balance of their roster is probably better than it's ever been before for Aaron Rodgers. So I still think the Bucks and Packers, the two teams that were in the championship game a year ago, are the teams that I trust the most. Doesn't mean the Rams don't have high-end potential. I really respect what the Cardinals have put together. And, I think the Cowboys might have the most talent. But I just feel like the Bucks and the Packers, the makeup of those teams has them positioned to get back where they were last year.